Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. It is Thursday, and Wednesdays and Thursdays for my clients can be kind of the break in their week. And I don't mean break like relax break. I mean, Wednesdays can oftentimes be the day that has the most things, especially if your kids are getting back in school. They might be joining, fall rec sports. They might be joining sports in school, whatever that looks like, right? And for some reason, Wednesdays are the day that everything happens. So you might be a little bit stressed out and you might be realizing that Wednesdays is the day that breaks your diet because once Wednesday comes around, you are eating the cookies, the cupcakes, the things that you have set aside for your kids' lunch boxes. You are overdoing it in some fashion and you just think, why can't I just eat the salad? Like why can't I just have one cookie? And I'm going to talk to you today about stress eating and not even the behavior. We're actually going to talk about the behavior very little. We're going to talk about stress eating and how to easily, very easily intervene when we are stressed because stress in itself is the thing that causes us to do the majority of our behaviors. And I'm going to teach you today on how to manage it in the easiest way. So, welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection live stream. Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we debunk the eat less, move more, shrink more mentality and focus on what really matters, which includes your relationship with your body, food, self-worth, and the behaviors that align with all of those. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. At the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's have a conversation about that. All right, we're talking about that today. Welcome everyone who's joining me. I'm going to turn on the chat because today we are actually going to engage in a chat. For my watchers here, listeners, I want you right now to just take a check of your stress. I want you to think about stress on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is I'm not stressed at all. I'm completely I don't feel anything because we do want a level of stress. And 10 is I am having a mental breakdown. I am completely overwhelmed. I'm completely anxious. Like at a 10, you are most likely checked out at this point. So I want you guys who are watching to put in the chat from 1 to 10 where we are at today. This by itself can actually be one of the many ways that we can begin to regulate our emotional and stressed eating. And just by becoming aware of where we're at, can be a way for us to recognize when we get too high, right? A lot of people tend to think about stress as a cup that is empty. When I think about stress, it's a cup that is overly full, right? And we don't want a cup that is empty because, again, we need a little stress in our lives. It's actually very healthy. Cortisol as a hormone is also very healthy. We need cortisol because we need alertness. We need to be able to automatically react, which is what our nervous system does. And I'll talk about that here in a sec. Automatically react to a threat, right? And so when I think about my clients, their cups are pouring over. Because if you think about a cup pouring over, if you're holding it, you're gripping it hard, no matter where you go, it's just spilling and spilling and spilling. And that's what stress can feel like. So we have a 6 out of 10. We have a few people on, but they probably jumped off. 6 out of 10, that's getting up there, right? That's getting high, but still, I mean, I would say anything over that I'd say your sweet spot is around that 3 to 5 area, right? So it's not too bad, but, obviously, there's some stress happening. Now, I want you to take a scan of your body, and I want you to just pay attention to what you're feeling physiologically. Are there any aches? Are there any pains? Do you feel constipated? Do you feel like your heart is racing? Are you sweating more? Do you feel fatigued? Do you feel like you have a ton of energy? Do you feel like you are nauseous? Okay. And then also mentally, are we in an anxiety ridden state? Are we worrying about the future? Or are we in a depressed state? Are we sulking about the past or are we mindful and staying present? This too, I've just given you guys two skills, right? This too can help you kind of take a checklist or a scan of what's going on and where we feel it. Now, I will tell you personally, I feel my stress in my trap muscles. I know when I have overdone it because these things they're kind of cool because you got to think about the stress response and how your body reacts is kind of like a fire alarm, right? Like something is wrong here. We've got to intervene. And my fire alarm happens right in my trap muscles and they actually get hot, which is funny. And 7 out of 10, that's up there. Yes. So the stress response can get I'm sorry, not stress response. My physical response to stress, my trap muscles get really hot and they get really tight. It feels as if I have like um, a hot 50-pound weight just sitting on each side of my shoulders, right? And so taking that scan of your body when we're at that 6 out of 10, when we're at that 7 out of 10, I want you to feel where you feel that stress because we're going to use this at a certain point. And you can put it in the chat, you don't have to, but keep a note of it because we're going to talk about how being chronically stressed can lead to a lot of our physical ailments that we experience. Okay. So let's talk about how we're talking about stress eating, but for some of you, it might not be stress eating. For some of you, it might be binge drinking. For some of you, it might be doom scrolling. For some of you, it might be vaping, right? Like these are activities that we do, and our brain has decided either of one or two things. It's decided that that activity helps us avoid what we're trying to avoid, whether in a positive way or a negative way. And what I mean by positive, we're going to use excitable good, like a I get excited in a good way or I get excited in a bad way, but there's still what we call maladaptive coping skills, which are skills that are not helping us. Okay. But let's talk about your nervous system. So we're going to meet your autonomic nervous system. Think autonomic, think automatic. Okay. We have a motor sensory system, which our brain has to ignite. That's the way we like move my muscle. My brain just told my body to move, right? Autonomic is automatic, okay? It's the nervous system kind of running in the background right now. And your autonomic nervous system has nerves throughout your entire body. It manages your heart rate, your digestion, your breathing. So automatic. We don't think about breathing and digesting and all of those things. Now, the autonomic nervous system is your brain and your spinal cord, okay? And then you have two secondary or branches of the nervous system that do opposite jobs. Okay. So let me walk you through the key players first. So, our hypothalamus, okay, your hypothalamus is kind of the command center of the nervous system. It runs the show, it senses a threat. So, our senses, right, sensory, kind of decide for us if something bad is happening. So we can smell something, so something's burning, right? We can hear something, a loud noise. Someone can touch us, right? We could see something come at us and we might touch a hot stove, right? So the senses normally are going to activate that response, but sometimes none of that's happening. It's in here, which we'll talk about. But when we sense a threat, it sends a signal to activate the stress response and it's automatic. Okay. So the hypothalamus says through the senses says stress is happening. And then it activates the pituitary gland, which is often called the master gland. And when the hypothalamus signals danger, the pituitary gland will release hormones. So your cortisol, your norepinephrine, your epinephrine, your adrenaline, it releases that into the body. It tells the body, hey, body, we are under attack. So it releases that cortisol and that adrenaline. Now, here's what's interesting. When we release cortisol asks the body, can you also release sugar into the bloodstream to give me energy? Because I need to fight. So I need energy to fight this thing. run away from it, right? And or freeze, right? But what we don't realize is that blood sugar is pumped into the blood, right? Sugar is pumped into the blood, right? Then what happens is the amygdala, right? So the amygdala is the part of body which is kind of assessing the threat, right? It's constantly scanning for danger, right? And that danger is real. So our senses sense that something's coming at us. We'll say a tiger's running at us or imagined. The amygdala does not know the difference. And the amygdala's job is just to it's like your what do I call my part? I have a hypervigilant amygdala and it's from my own trauma. And I really trying to do work on it. It's my watchtower is what I call it. It's like a watchtower. It's just scanning, 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 right? And when it sees threat, it sends the emergency signals, right, to that hypothalamus and says, activate that stress response. But why I put the amygdala in my notes is because I want you guys to understand it will detect a threat even when one is not there because you have connected a way of feeling, right? Interacting with people, um, of I guess a feeling would be like disappointment, right? You have connected these emotions to a threat. And your brain has said, okay, whenever I feel shame, whenever I feel embarrassment, whenever I feel disappointed, whenever I feel abandoned, threat, threat, threat. Okay. So I wanted to put that in the notes here. Okay. So on top of that, we have our brainstem, right? Our brainstem connects to our spinal cord. I know this is getting a little nerdy, but work with me here, right? And it controls, like I said, our heart rate and our breathing. So when the hypothalamus activates the stress response, it turns the volume up on all of that. Now, the way I explain it is everything from the diaphragm, which is right here, down goes on pause, and everything from here up gets elevated. That's very important. Very, very important. So, other than our legs, we obviously need our legs. So, I'm talking about organs. So, basically, when your brain says threat, we need our lung capacity to go up, we need our heart rate to go up, we need that blood in our sugar, and we need our legs to go or fight. That is everything that we need in that moment. What we don't need in that moment is our reproduction system to work. We don't need to reproduce. We don't need to digest, right? We don't need to detox our body. We need to run or fight. It's very black and white. Okay. So heart rate goes up, breathing goes up. Um, Other things come down, your social connection comes down, your digestion comes down. There's a lot of things that come down. You know what? Let me do this for you guys. I wasn't going to put this in, but I think that it's really helpful just for you to see it. I'm not going to go through it. Um, is it this one? Yeah. I'm not going to go through it like I normally would, but just so you can see, let me share my screen. Group docs. There we go. Okay. So this is your nervous system. Okay. So we just talked about flight and fight, right? We have freeze at the top, and then we have what we'll talk about next. But what I want to show you, hopefully you can see this, is when we are in fight or flight, it increases, as I said, blood pressure, heart rate, fuel availability. So that's where that sugar comes in, adrenaline, facial expressions, eye contact, oxygen circulation to vital organs like your lungs, blood clotting, and pupil size. It decreases fuel storage, insulin activity, digestion, salivation, relational ability, so the ability to connect, because if I need to fight you, I'm not trying to love you, and immune response. Now, one important thing that I want to know I'm not talking about today is that you'll see that fight and flight are here in the sympathetic. Sympathetic means I can, okay? I can means I can get out. I can fight my way out or I can run my way out. Freeze is in the dorsal vagal. Okay. Freeze says, I can't. I can't get out of here. So I dissociate, numb, depress. I shut down. I play dead. Okay. And that has its own emergency state that we are not necessarily talking about today. Okay. So we're just focusing on fight, flight, and how it affects our food, right? So that is that. I will put this link in the show notes. Okay. Hopefully you can see me now. All right, cool. All right, so let's bring it all together. You perceive a threat, real or imagined. The amygdala picks it up, alerts the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus alerts the pituitary gland. We release the stress hormones. Brainstem kicks in. Heart racing, breathing shallow. Blood diverts to digestion, or blood, excuse me, diverts away from digestion to your limbs. Okay, I hope you're getting what I'm putting down. This is your, um, sorry, there's a helicopter going by. This is your sympathetic nervous system. Your gas pedal on is down. Like you are on that gas, you're going, okay? Now, what happens though is in the sympathetic nervous system, when the threat shows up, right? All of that kicks in. However, eventually the goal is for us to go through the stressful state. Once that threat is gone, we bring ourselves back down, okay? So we this kind of up and down, right? From homeostasis to the stress response, down back to homeostasis, that's what we want. Okay. So let's talk about what that side of the system is. That side of the system is called the parasympathetic nervous system. This is your brake pedal. Okay. When you're safe, the PNS comes online. The heart rate will slow down, your digestion will work again. You can think clearly, you can feel calm coming back to this sheet. I know you can't see it. I'm just going to read it for you because this is, yeah. Digestion increases, internal mobility, so your ability to move the food, right? Resistance to infection. So when we're in the SNS, the sympathetic, we can actually get sick, okay? Rest and recuperation happens, circulation to non-vital organs happens in that moment, right? So not those extremities, we're bringing it back to everything else. We can feel connection, we have a release of oxytocin, and we have the ability to relate. What decreases is our defense response, okay? So when we talk about parasympathetic nervous system, we often say rest and digest, rest and digest. I do that shit all the time. It's more than that. It is rest and relax. It's rest and restore. It's rest and reproduce. It's rest and digest. Okay. There's a lot that happens when we're in the PNS. When we're in the PNS and we're eating, that's when our body takes that food, uses it up, and is able to get rid of the waste. But when we're eating and we're stressed, it doesn't do that. It can actually, because we're stressed, where blood is coming away from the digestion. Because remember, our brain doesn't know that the tiger's not there. Our boss just yelled at us. We're heightened. We're eating the food, and our body is not digesting that food normally because it thinks I need to save the energy from digestion to run away. Okay. All right. Cool. I hope you guys are still following. So, obviously, our goal is to go when there is a threat, SNS, right? Fight, flight, come back down to that parasympathetic nervous system. It's so long of a word. PNS. Hopefully we're following. And we chill. But that's not how it works in modern living. We, with long days, back-to-back meetings, pressure on yourself to take care of everyone else, to people please, to, be perfect at life, to strive for everything, to be the achiever. We put that pressure on ourselves and we are stuck in a chronically stressed state. Your amygdala is like, what is happening? Are we just constantly on fire? How many of you feel constantly on fire? I have had moments in my life for sure that I was absolutely drowning. Maybe fire's a terrible word, but like just drowning. And it felt normal to me. And I'm sure for some of you, this feels normal. But how many of you have been in that place where you're just like, why can I come up for air? Okay. So let's talk about why we're here, though. You've kind of got the gist of it. I needed to lay that out for you. Why we stress eat. Okay. When we feel discomfort, your brain has one job: make it stop. Our brain's job is to keep us alive. And if something feels uncomfortable, a threat, painful, disappointing, shameful, because shame disconnects us from our pack. Because if shame is I'm not enough, I'm bad, and if I'm bad, I'm going to lose my pack. If I lose my pack, I'm out, right? If we feel any of that, in order to survive, our brain says, whoa, 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 we've got to deal with this and we've got to deal with it now. Okay. And the way I kind of explained it at the beginning, there's kind of two types of this response. So we feel discomfort, right? You feel anxious, you eat chocolate cake, you feel better. Your brain's like, oh, chocolate cake ends my discomfort. The brain doesn't know what happens on the other side of that, because on the other side of that is you're now comfortable and your prefrontal cortex kicks in. I haven't talked about that part yet. And now we're stuck in logic and reasoning. But in that survival moment, prefrontal cortex she's on break. She's on coffee break, okay? She is nowhere to be found because we don't need logic and reasoning. We need to run or we need to fight, okay? So we say chocolate cake, threat, chocolate cake, boom, mouth, threat's gone, okay? Prefrontal cortex, its job is logic and reasoning. Its job is to be like, "Uh, yeah, we're trying to, eat healthier here. We're trying not to reach for food here when we're stressed. Yeah, shouldn't have done that." Yes. And if we shouldn't have done that, right? Another little thing kicks in, which is the inner critic voice, and it says, "You're an idiot. Why did you do that?" Right? Okay. So we're gonna call that, and this is not my word. This is one of my therapy trainings that I've done for like continuing education. She called it excitable good, right? So that's the chocolate cake. On the other side is excitable bad. Something triggers you, right? You feel discomfort. So you do whatever you find a way to avoid it. That could be dissociate, that could be scream, that could be ruminate. The avoidance coping skill doesn't feel good, but it still avoids the discomfort, if that makes sense. So you have, I do that thing, I would need to avoid that thing, and I have these coping skills that I use. Food could also be that make me feel still negative about myself, but it helps me avoid the bigger feeling I'm trying to avoid. So that could be so many things. Obviously, at the end of the day, what we're calling these are maladaptive coping skills. We think that they're providing us relief, but they are not. They are providing very short amount of relief. And every time, whether it's cake, whether it's vaping, alcohol, ruminating, replaying the conversation with that girl that talked shit about you in the shower over and over again. Maybe I've done that a few times. Um, Raging, dissociating, all of those. Every time we feel that discomfort and we choose that behavior, we're training our brain that it works for us. And the more that we do it, the stronger that response is. The more that we do it, the more we train our brain. Okay, this is what we do when we feel this, right? So the beautiful thing is we've trained it. So we can train it outside of that. So again, when discomfort happens, the brain says, fix this. You do Y behavior to avoid it. Over time, the brain gets really good at this pattern. And that's okay. Your brain is designed to work that way. Okay. And if we know that, just knowing this is like, oh, so you're telling me this whole binge eating thing that I do, maybe not binge eating, but like stress eating, because binge eating disorder is its own thing, but stress eating, I taught myself how to do. does exactly what I'm telling you. And I'm gonna teach you very simple ways to come out of that pattern, okay? So I want you to think about this like a rash, okay? So you get a small rash, say you have a rash on your hand, okay? And you're like, "Shit, this itches." So you scratch it, right? And as you scratch it, it starts to spread, right? So now it's maybe coming up your arm and you're like, "Shit, I gotta go to the doctor." So go to the doctor and they're like, "Stop scratching the rash." And you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna stop scratching the rash." But because you think that scratching the rash is bringing you relief when it's really itchy, it might in that moment, right? But what happens afterwards? It spreads. And then the more you do that, it spreads until it's out of control. The feedback loop that we're teaching ourselves that when I feel discomfort, I eat the food, right? Is like scratching that rash. And every time I do it, that rash is spreading. And we're creating a greater lack of control around food when really we're lacking control around our stress. Food is the how do I say this before? Food is the oh my gosh, not cure. It's you guys have heard me say this many times and my brain is doing the thing that it does. It's a solution. Food is the solution that you've taught your brain to the problem, which is your inability to sit through the discomfort of whatever that thing is. Yeah, I said it. I said it. Your inability to sit through that discomfort, granted, no one taught you how to do that, and that's okay. I'm here to teach you how to do that. That is really the thing that is at the root cause of you grabbing that food. Okay. Now, some people are might watch this and be like, "That's not why I emotionally ate." Fine, then you have some sort of n different pattern, but in my experience of 15 plus years, I started practicing therapy in 2010. This is like 9 out of 10 people, okay? So, over time again, that chronic stress, so living in this state where so let's think about it. Maybe you guys can add in the chat. What do you think that discomfort is for you that you avoid? I avoid what do I avoid? I avoid connection, which I talk about a lot. It's hard for me to connect to people. I think that's why I never became a mother. Um, I avoid being humble. Humbled and like I avoid being wrong. I know I don't avoid being wrong as much. I avoid admitting when I'm wrong. So, I've worked on that. I wonder what my friends would say I avoid. Asking for help, which is that connection, which we all know, right? What do you guys avoid? What do you think you're avoiding? So, when I'm constantly living in a state of hyper independence, right? Because I have a problem asking for help, and if I'm like, feeling like I'm alone in things, like, that's a stress state, okay? Some of the other I wanna say this too, some of the other ways we can be stressed, guys, is not just emotional. You can be living in a body that has pain. Maybe you have an illness. Now, a lot of integrative health practitioners would say your stress is a part of that. You can have mold and toxins in your body. People say that that can be a part of stress. Obviously, in a socioeconomic, in an environment, political stress. There's other things, obviously, that contribute to this. But say that I'm constantly in this state of avoiding shame, right? I'm constantly feeling like I'm not good enough. If I'm not, as I already told you guys, if I feel like I'm not good enough, then my tribe is not going to want me. If my tribe does not want me, I will not survive this life. And if I'm constantly in that state, as I told you in the beginning, eventually my body's going to start breaking down. I'll have sleep disruptions. I will wake up not feeling rested. I will go to sleep feeling tired but not be able to sleep. I will wake in the middle of the night ruminating. I will have digestive issues. I will have bloating, loose stool, nausea, heartburn, right? I will have a weakened immune system. I will have I will be more susceptible to allergies and colds. That is something that I have. And which is interesting because I don't necessarily have, well, Dr. Trap would say differently. I don't necessarily have like symptoms of like high stress, even though I'm on a stress protocol. So I say that because my resting heart rate is relatively low. Reproductive issues, sex issues, right? Because again, like if I'm chronically stressed, being engaged, like engaging in intercourse, being able to follow through with intercourse, like, our bodies don't need that, right? If we're stressed and all of our blood is going to our extremities, it's not going where it should be, right? Reproductive issues, issues with insulin and glucose. So, a lot of these things can happen, but also from a mental standpoint, emotional dysregulation, anxiety, right? The difference between depression and anxiety is depression is stress of the past. We're ruminating about the past. Anxiety is stress about the future. And if we're chronically stressed, then we have heightened levels of anxiety, heightened levels of depression, right? And so on. Okay. And then we have like post traumatic stress, stress from trauma. Trauma is subjective, it is not what people think it is. It can be really anything. So we have, I try to avoid being noticed and asking for help. Yes, I avoid the reality of life, death, health situations daily with a family member. Absolutely. And, you know, the interesting thing about both of those is that, again, the intensity in your brain, whether it's asking for help or an actual medical emergency, your brain, it doesn't say like, "Oh, this is higher, this is lower." Like, it's just like threat, right? And so our goal is to teach you today, my goal is to teach you to calm the amygdala so the prefrontal cortex can come back online, right? Because that's where we can actually think and make a choice. Think and know there's a choice. Ooh, that's it. Think and know there's a choice here and respond instead of react. Now that sounds so great. Yay. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to tell you something right now. You're not going to do that right now in the stress response. Okay. What I'm going to introduce to you is the relaxation response. And the relaxation response is ultimately recognizing, right, when an emotion, right, a threat has come. So let me back up. I'm gonna talk about it when it's happening in a stress state, and then I'm gonna teach you guys how to begin to use it. So there we go. Okay. So we need to recognize that we're in a false sense of threat. That doesn't invalidate that you have those emotions. It doesn't invalidate that maybe someone said something to you that was not very nice. It doesn't invalidate that your family member has gone through, I know what your family member goes through, right? Has gone through their daily struggle. It doesn't eliminate that, right? Now for that situation, there is a sense of threat, right? But I can't fight or flight in that situation, right? So it's a different type of threat, right? It's almost vicarious, if you will. However, we need to acknowledge my brain thinks that the house is burning down. My brain thinks that a tiger's running at me, right? And that's not true. I can stay present in this moment or simply sit with this discomfort. I can sit with this discomfort. We tell the amygdala there are no fires here. We tell the amygdala we've been here before. We tell the amygdala this is 30 seconds, right? Whatever it is for your situation, we have to tell the amygdala I will survive, right? And again, with the circumstances with your family member, your brain might be like, "No, you won't." Right? "No, you won't." And that's what we've gotta come back to. I have the evidence that I have survived, right? And that I can breathe through it, and then I can come out of that stress state once it's done, you know? So, telling the amygdala, "There is no fire here," getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. We're not trying to avoid it. We're not trying to hold on to it either. That's another thing I tell people. Don't hold on to it, don't push it away, because when you actually allow the amygdala, that whole system that I talked to you guys about, to do its work, it's about 90 seconds. It's about 90 seconds. If we just there it is. And then what I'm gonna teach you in step 2. So step 1 is awareness. Brain thinks that there's a threat here. Brain thinks the house is burning down. There is no fire. There is no burning down. Breathe is step 2. Oxygen is the key to bringing your body out of the sympathetic nervous state. It also activates diaphragmatic breathing, activates your vagus nerve, which is a nerve that runs, it's actually on both sides of your body, and it runs from your brain to your body and to all of your organs. Okay. And so, breath and the right breath, because think about, I want you guys to just real quick, where are you breathing from? Are you breathing from here or are you breathing from here? Tell me in the chat. Are we breathing from our chest or are we breathing from our diaphragm? Because oftentimes we're stuck up here. It's hard for me to do that. Right? Especially when we're stressed. We're breathing from our chest. What we want to be doing is we want to be breathing from our diaphragm. This is like a parachute that sits underneath our, like right inside our rib cage. And we want to be able to take deep breaths, which we'll practice here in a second. Yes, yes. This is exactly what I was thinking trying to come off a beta blocker. I had so much anxiety I couldn't figure out. So I caved in and restarted it again because it was awful. Absolutely. And beta blockers, their job is to literally block those physiological symptoms, right? And chest, yes. We're going to practice how to do the breath work. So oxygen is the key of bringing us out of that nervous system place and bringing us into parasympathetic. And then our job is to practice breath work over and over. Okay. Think about something easier, right? Think about having a craving for something. When we can say, like your brain, this happened to me today. I was doing something that I needed to focus on, and my brain wanted to grab my phone, and I felt myself go like this because my brain wanted a break. And I said, right? Your brain just wants to grab your phone because it needs a break. So give it the break that it actually needs. And I go outside and I stand in the sun. Okay. You're literally telling your brain there is no threat. Or even in my situation, like, we don't need to do that. Right? That's not what we need to do. Breathe through it. Bring it back down. Once I got that reaction down, that was a very small reaction. When I got that reaction down, prefrontal cortex comes online, says, go outside, get some sun. That actually helps. Okay. And why this works is it will decrease the intensity over time, the intensity of that discomfort, right? More importantly, your brain learns when this trigger happens, it is not a threat. I do not need to eat. I do not need to drink, vape, whatever, enter maladaptive coping skill. I can just be here. And here's the cool part. Eventually, if you do it enough, the brain goes, eh. We like because it requires no energy, right? So then eventually, over a long period of time, this takes about a year to do, our brain says, okay. And that's not to say that it's like dis disassociated from that thing. It's just learned there's no threat here. It's like when my dog runs at me, I'm like, "Yeah, come here." But if a dog I don't know runs at me, that's gonna take some energy from my body. When my dog runs at me, I'm just like, "Rah!" Right? No energy is needed for that. All right, so let's practice. So let's get comfortable, guys. You've probably seen some of these things, but I want to do it with you. Now, first things first is we want to breathe from our diaphragm. So the first thing we're going to do is just put our hands right underneath our boobies there. And I want you to practice breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now, for some of you, if that brings any sort of sense of anxiety, that is normal. However, you can start with breathing through your mouth if that feels more comfortable. So we're just going to do that. And what we're going to pay attention to is our hand rising and falling. So breathe in and out. Now, when we're breathing out, what they like to say is some people will say, put your tongue at your roof, like that. That's hard for me. So I go, it's almost like I'm whistling. Some people also like to whoosh. So let's try a whoosh. So let's try it again. So breathe in through the diaphragm, press out that hand. Exhale. I did the same thing. I didn't whoosh. See, I do it my way. I have that kind of whistle and that works for me. So the other thing about breathing diaphragmatically is it helps to release our pelvic muscles, because if we're constantly in that stuck state, we can get a lot of pain in our hips and have a lot of issues with a lot of things in the pelvic region. So when we're doing what I'm going to introduce now, we're doing it from we're going to do it from the diaphragm. Sorry. All right. So the first one we're going to practice is called 4-7-8 breathing. It's an inhale through the nose for 4 seconds. We are going to hold it for 7 seconds and then exhale for 8 seconds. Now, if 7 seconds feels like that's a little bit too much, that's okay. What I want you to do with this is I always want your exhale to be double the time of your inhale. Because think about when we're stressed, usually it's short, right? Think about when your animal, I always think of my dog, when I know she's going to go to bed, what does she do? She goes, it's the cutest thing. So, hand on the chest. I'm going to walk you through 4-7-8. Okay. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. I can't do it and sing it at the same time. So let's try it one more time. So, ready? Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good work. That's 4-7-8. That is one example. Now, the next one's a lot easier. The next one, I feel like you can do anywhere. Whereas when I do 4-7-8, I feel like people know that I'm like dramatically exhaling. So the next one is called box breathing, right? So what we're going to do is we're still going to breathe from our diaphragm, and we're going to inhale for 4. We're going to hold for 4. So inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Okay. So let's try that. Hand on the diaphragm. Feet, let's make sure your feet are planted on the ground if you can. That's going to help open up those airways, right? So we're going to breathe in. 4, hold. 2, 3, 4, exhale. 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4. For some people, they like to draw the box. So let's do that. So inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Good. You can do that with pen, paper, do it in your head. And doing that over and over again is going to allow you to get into that parasympathetic state, or at least you're going to get into the relaxation response. Bring that prefrontal cortex on, click it on, and then we make the decision. Okay. So when we can well, let me come back because I told you what I'd give you guys. What I want you guys to do is I want you to make this a practice once in the morning, right? So we're turning on our day by connecting to our breath, connecting to that parasympathetic state. We're kind of giving the body this restorative activity to begin our day. Okay. We love that. Then once at night. And listen, guys, this could be a 1 minute activity. There are apps. This is for clients in your self care resources. There is a YouTube video that is box breathing, and it literally goes boop, 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 boop. And it's like this like ball that you follow. It's awesome. 470, I don't think I have one in there, but I will find one. But all of these can be practiced in your resources tab. And they just link to YouTube that I found for you. Okay. Um, then we want to end our day. So we want to bookend, right? So beginning of our day, starting our day in this really restorative place. We want to end our day in a restorative place because guess what we're doing when we're sleeping? We're recovering, right? So practicing this breath work first because we're not going to recall it when we're stressed if we haven't practiced it. The more we practiced it, the less the brain has to think about it. And when we're stressed, we want that. We want the thing that's easy. We want the thing that doesn't take mental energy because mental energy is kind of offline, right? So we want to practice it enough that our brain remembers, oh, I like that. That makes me feel good, right? It's an adaptive coping skill. So then, once we practice that enough, we then go into when we catch ourselves, right? We might catch ourselves wanting to reach for the food. Great sign. Come back, get curious. What's going on here? What's going on here? Okay. My body's in a stress state. Let me just feel it. Let me feel it. Let me love on that stress. We don't need to avoid it, right? We can just be with it. Like, you will be surprised. I love when my clients are like, I had a client who's a brilliant professor. She works with special education, just amazing, beautiful human, and had decades of binge eating. I mean, had been through binge eating anonymous therapy treatment. When I taught her to sit with her emotions, she was like, Christina, no one's fucking taught me this. She didn't cuss. She's very kind. She's not me. Not that I'm not unkind. Anyway, she said, I've been avoiding feeling these emotions my entire life. And when you said, if I just sit with them, they'll come and go, and they did, I haven't binge eaten since. Literally. Like, I'm not making that up. I haven't checked in with her. I wonder where she's at now. But this shit works. Okay. So we're going to bookend our day with breath work. We're going to practice it, right? Get good at it or get comfortable with it. So our brain, the more that we do it, the less brain power it requires. Then when we're triggered, and maybe, over the next couple weeks, you can practice the triggering with something like smaller on the triggering scale. So, a bug buzzes by my ear, that triggers the shit out of me. I think I'm going to be eaten by the bug. I dodged a beetle on the ground that I could have stepped on as if it was going to open its mouth and consume me. This is why I'm never going to like Australia. We can practice on that and say, no threat. It's just a beetle. He's more scared of you than you are of him. Bring it down. Or when you find yourself at the red light, gripping the wheel, no threat, relax. It's okay, right? Or you're brushing your teeth and your brain is going off on all the 10,000 things you need to do, no threat. Just focus on brushing my teeth. You can do that in the shower too. Just be here. All right, quick check-in. Coming back to our 1 to 10 rating. Where are we at now after a little breath work, after a little validation? You may be heightened because now I've given you things to do. Where are you guys at? And then also, how are we feeling in the body? If we're feeling anything, throw that in the chat for me. I, as a coach, really, and as I get older, I realize how much our health, yes, obviously we need to put our bodies in a healthy state because food can put us in a stress state. But I'm really just more focused on, living in my best body, right? And that means everything. That means my nervous system, my gut. Those two things alone are, if we can clean those up, you're gonna like rid yourself from most ailments, gut and nervous system, right? Because when our bodies are in a calm state, we can digest food, we can pull those nutrients that we need from them, right? Cortisol is not pumping through our bodies constantly. That it's not even the cortisol, guys, it's the sugar. Because if we don't fight or flight, now we have this fuel that's unused that then gets stored, right? And it will get stored around your organs. I don't know the reason for that, to be honest with you. I need to look that up. But we're feeling better. Instead, we were a 7 out of 10. Now we're a 5 out of 10. We were a 6 out of 10. Now a 4 out of 10. Nice and chill. Yay. All right. Awesome. Good, good, good. For both of you, you'll have access to those resources. I will be messaging you in the app so that we get you all set up for next week. And I hope you guys found this helpful. I'm going to continue this series next week. Am I here next week? Yes. I want to talk about mindfulness, which we've already touched on. Mindfulness is just bringing yourself back to right now. So we're going to talk about mindfulness. Then we're going to talk about positive psychology and how that can help us with our stress and our stress eating, drinking, vaping, all that. And I'm missing another one, some other things. I might put them together. We'll see how it goes. But I think this is just, like I said, if we can help your gut and we can help your nervous system, we can help a lot of things going on in our lives. And when those two things are feeling good, we can make good decisions about food. We can exercise in a way that is healthy, right? Because excessive exercise can increase our stress, right? So on and so forth. So love you guys. Thank you for being here. Share this with anyone who's stressed AF. And I'll see you next week. Bye bye.